Most people never set out to ruin their lives, yet the path to self-destruction is paved with tiny, almost unnoticeable missteps. There's an unspoken hard truth about some married women that often goes unseen by many men, a truth that doesn't stem from weakness or a lack of moral fiber, but rather from the innate human susceptibility to temptation. No one suddenly decides to betray all they've built. Instead, it unfolds in the smallest moments. It's in those seemingly innocent conversations, the lingering glances, and the subtle quickening of her heartbeat when she receives a message from someone other than her husband. For decades, psychologists have described this process as the gradual erosion of personal boundaries. One discrete step, one fleeting thought at a time, until one day, she barely recognizes the person staring back at her in the mirror. So, why do some married women find themselves so easily drawn into temptation? And more importantly, how do they rationalize their actions to themselves? That's the intriguing mystery we're about to unravel. But before we delve in, like this video, and if you are new here, hit subscribe and enable notification so you never miss out on our latest updates. Let's begin. The unspoken void. Why some married women seek external attention. In an ideal marriage, two people form a true partnership, a union where both individuals support one another through life's challenges and temptations. Yet as time marches on, even the strongest marriages can begin to waver. Some married women, despite the vows they've taken, start seeking external validation. This isn't simply about physical attraction, it's a deeply psychological phenomenon. The common misconception is that these women are looking for an escape. In truth, many are searching for something they feel they've lost along the way. Humans are hardwired for connection, and women in particular possess an intrinsic need for emotional intimacy that goes far beyond physical presence. In the early days of marriage, this intimacy can be electric. The late-night conversations, the secret glances, the profound feeling of being truly seen. However, as the years pass, routine tends to settle in. The passionate discussions gradually turn into conversations about grocery lists and household chores. What once felt exhilarating gives way to duty, and worst of all, she may begin to feel invisible. Dr. John Gottman, a renowned relationship psychologist, has identified indifference, not conflict, as the silent killer of relationships. When a woman no longer feels noticed by her partner, her subconscious starts to crave the validation and excitement that once made her feel alive. It's not uncommon for a simple compliment from a stranger, or a genuine conversation with someone who listens intently, to feel like a breath of fresh air after years of emotional suffocation. Marriage brings with it stability and predictability, but therein lies a hidden downside. Known in psychology as the Coolidge effect, the idea is that novelty sparks desire. When every day feels like a repeat of the last, even a small dose of something new and thrilling can be irresistible. It's not that she doesn't love her husband or lacks moral fortitude. It's that she longs for the thrill of being chosen and feeling desired, much like the rush of her younger, more confident self. F. Scott Fitzgerald once observed that being pursued can remind a woman of the vibrant, magnetic person she used to be, the version of herself that felt effortlessly attractive. Even without any intention of crossing a line, that brief surge of attention can make her feel alive and powerful once again. Another factor at play is the loss of social identity. After marriage, many women find their individual identity slowly merging into roles defined by others: wife, mother, caretaker, and supporter. While these roles are meaningful and beautiful, they can also feel confining. Before marriage, she was an individual with her own dreams, passions, and mystery. Over time, if she starts to feel like she's lost that sense of individuality, she may unconsciously seek interactions that reaffirm her uniqueness. Sometimes, that search for self-reclamation leads her to crave the attention of another man, a reminder that she is still desirable and distinct. This intricate dance of emotional needs, the allure of novelty, and the quest to reclaim a lost identity all contribute to why some married women find themselves drawn to external attention. It's a poignant reminder that, at its core, the desire to feel seen and desired is one of the most fundamental human needs. 2. The justification game. The mind has a remarkable way of justifying what the heart has already decided. No one wakes up one day thinking, "I'm going to betray my marriage today." Instead, the descent into betrayal is a gradual, slippery process, one that begins with tiny justifications whispered in the deepest corners of the mind, long before any real action takes place. The unbearable weight of guilt can be lifted when we convince ourselves that what we're doing isn't truly wrong. So, how do married women come to rationalize crossing that line? It often starts innocently enough, what seems like a harmless bit of extra attention. It's just a conversation, they tell themselves. There's nothing wrong with talking to someone new. The brain, ever adept at self-deception, finds reasons to bridge the gap between what feels pleasurable and what clashes with its moral compass. Psychologists refer to this as cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable tension that emerges when our actions conflict with our beliefs. When that tension becomes too much, the mind twists reality to protect itself. As Richard Feynman once noted, the easiest person to fool is yourself. A once loyal woman might start playing mental games, downplaying a flirtatious remark by thinking, "It's just harmless flirting. I wouldn't really cross the line," or shifting the blame by rationalizing, "If my husband paid more attention to me, I wouldn't feel this need." She may even compartmentalize her actions, convincing herself that what's happening is entirely separate from her marriage. But herein lies the danger. The more she justifies these actions, the further she drifts. Often, the first act of betrayal isn't physical, it's emotional. Unlike physical cheating, where the lines are clear, an emotional affair exists in a blurry gray area. Late-night texts, deep conversations that wander into forbidden territories, and the sharing of personal struggles with someone other than her husband all start as innocent exchanges. Yet, as emotional intimacy builds, so does a subtle detachment from her partner. In the moment she begins keeping secrets, she's already crossed a boundary that can be perilously hard to return from. Then there's the "I deserve this" mindset, a final, potent justification. At this stage, a woman no longer sees her actions as questionable. Instead, she convinces herself that after sacrificing so much for her marriage, she deserves to feel good again. "He's ignored me for years. Why shouldn't I seek the attention I crave?" In her eyes, the emotional connection forming with another man becomes more real and vital than the one at home. What was once perceived as betrayal is now reframed as a quest for justice, a reclaiming of self-worth. Ultimately, married women may become vulnerable to these temptations not because they lack willpower or morality, but because the human brain is adept at rationalizing what feels good. It starts with tiny excuses, small justifications that, if left unchecked, snowball into actions that mark the point of no return. 3. The breaking point. Chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken. Samuel Johnson. Every story of betrayal has a moment, a point of no return, when the subtle whispers of temptation transform into actions with irreversible consequences. It's that silent shift from innocent conversations and playful flirting to something real and dangerous. What's most alarming is that many women don't even recognize this turning point until they're trapped in its grip. In psychology, this phenomenon is explained by threshold theory, the idea that even those who insist they'd never cross a moral line eventually do, simply because the hardest step is taking that first leap. It might begin with a single message she knows she shouldn't send, or a casual meetup under the guise of friendship. Perhaps it's that first instance when his hand lingers a little too long and she doesn't pull away. In that moment, everything shifts. The initial act makes the next one easier, and soon, what once felt forbidden begins to feel disturbingly normal. A comforting lie often echoes in her mind. I can stop whenever I want. But once an emotional trigger is set off, it becomes as addictive as any substance. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain pathways activated by romantic and sexual attraction are remarkably similar to those involved in drug addiction. That dopamine rush, a hit of exhilaration from a new connection, can be intoxicating, satisfying a craving she didn't even know existed. At first, every lie and every excuse feels awkward. The first time she hides a message, the first time she fabricates an explanation, and the first time her heart races when her husband asks about her phone, all of it feels wrong. Yet the human mind is a master of adaptation. Over time, guilt gives way to strategy. She becomes increasingly skilled at covering her tracks, compartmentalizing her emotions so thoroughly that the initial remorse fades into routine. Promises to end it next week or next month slip into months of inaction until she finds herself ensnared in her own web. Then comes the final profound shift. When she's gone too far, her marriage stops being her primary emotional anchor. Her husband fades into the background as the connection with the other man takes center stage. The passion, the intimacy, the sense of being truly seen. Even if she hasn't physically crossed every line, her heart has already chosen a new home. At that point, there are only two inevitable outcomes. Either the secret is eventually exposed, or she walks away from her marriage unable to sustain the duplicity any longer. So, why do some married women become vulnerable to this gradual descent? It isn't about a desire to cheat. It's about longing for something that feels lost. A spark of recognition, validation, and excitement that seems absent at home. When that elusive feeling is rediscovered, leaving it behind appears impossible. Not because love for their husband has vanished, but because they've convinced themselves that what they've found outside is irreplaceable. Understanding this hidden dynamic gives you power. The power to see what others often miss, to read between the lines, and to detect the silent signals before they escalate into irreversible actions. With that insight, you'll never be blind to the subtle game of temptation again. If you found value in this video, hit the like button. Your support helps us grow and reach more people like you. Be sure to subscribe for daily content and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. We've also recommended another video on your screen. Watch that next. And as always, we'll see you back here tomorrow.